Well, hello, good morning. It's your old mate Dave Spencer, back with you once again and off on our transport adventures, not too far from home on this rather sort of overcast day in late January 2026. And what are we going to see in Manchester? Well, of course, we shall see what we shall see. The lighting's pretty good, really, for the time of year. Sort of fairly even, thin cloud. It's not too dark, and let's hope we find something of interest. Of course, the B network now much more uniform than it was. Not so many buses. Quite rare to get them around with stickers on now. So I'll carry on. Perhaps we'll have a chat as we go along, or maybe we'll be catching up at the end. How's that? So see you all in a bit. I spoke too soon on the sticker front, didn't I? There certainly are a few around. Perhaps it's because it's still early in the day. going to tuck himself in the corner there, but had my eye on the one behind. Well and truly are museum pieces now. The old, the early E400s. The first one is in the Manchester Museum. Well, not the first one of all, but the first one to be preserved, at Boyle Street, of which we are a member these days. I took ages joining it. My history goes back there to the 1970s when it was first opened, and I was the secretary of the local branch of the Model Bus Federation, and quite a lot of to do with the museum, as they kindly offered their small exhibits area as it was known, for us to have our annual model bus show there, previously held at the Britain's Protection. I first came taking still photographs in Manchester in the sort of mid 1970s, about 76 I probably took my first photos here, black and white. I've got quite a lot from that era sitting around somewhere. Seems a long time ago, probably, because it is a long time ago. I find it very fascinating to look back over the years at scenes taken in Piccadilly, the old Parker Street bus station, it was known, and lots of distinct things you can make out. You'll see the horse buses and trams and the regular trams, trolley buses, both Manchester and Ashton, all manner of things over the years. At wartime, when there were massive air raid, concrete air raid shelters here. The history of Piccadilly to some extent is the history of our lives, and I've been here at least once every year since I started doing video. I skipped the cine, which was to become such a big part of my life in different ways, and went straight into video starting in 1988. And when I started photography, when I got onto video, you know, those days you did things like evening classes and you sort of learnt how to do it properly. People don't seem to sort of take that attention to detail these days. I don't really think I'm ever going to be the sort of person who does all his filming on a mobile phone. I do have a friend who films on a phone. I don't know how he does it. It looks very good though. So I guess I shall stick to the old ways until I pop my clogs. Got two in the stagecoach livery. Their previous one, of course, now they're on the slate blue, extremely dark blue livery. But these were the colours of stagecoach when the B network started. There was quite a shortage of not only of electric buses, also of charging points, and everything was behind schedule. It was really quite pushed, but I suppose they did manage to launch it. Had a bit of a rough start really with timekeeping and buses not turning up, but I think that has to some extent been addressed. It's got a great proponent in the form of Andy Burnham, who's the sort of mayor of the Greater Manchester area, not the mayor of Manchester though. As I say, if you look back over the years, Manchester, when they had that beautiful streamlined livery of the 1930s, that looked absolutely gorgeous those days. Somebody's just going to walk straight in front of me there. Thank you. Another zombie on their phone. phone zombies. We never saw that one coming, did we? Back in the 1970s even. I think it was in the very early 1990s that I saw the first mobile phone being used on the street, and that was down Guildford. There was a big sort of brick, that really was a brick, and up before that they were pretty well restricted to use in cars, so that's how you got the car phone warehouse and all that sort of thing. That's its origins. Very limited reception. It's taken a while for reception in the lower Peover village to even reach that of the 1980s down in London. But these days you can usually get a signal at our house. But we still have a landline, as most of the PMP customers will know. A lot of people still like to give us a ring with their order. Of course, things are rapidly changing as we go over to digital downloads from the PMP range, and I'm increasingly taken up with my work as a trustee director of the OTA, Online Transport Archive. OTA we call it because we do so much. We're not particularly online there, are we really? Anyway, what's in a name? I quite like this shop here because you get them going through the Leisure beacons. Paul Belisha, who was the guy that invented them, brought them in, and who was the Minister of Transport back in the day in the 1930s. So they've been around quite a while. I'd love to have been here doing this back in the late 30s. Wow, had some sights with all the trolley buses and the trams still going. The old magic bus delivery of Stagecoach. This is the last magic bus variation. I think the pedestrian there didn't really look at all. He just strided straight out onto the pedestrian crossing. It might be a pedestrian crossing, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't cast your eyes down. Somebody darting out like that in a fright for the poor old bus drivers. One's a coffee zombie. I do have my gloves in the pocket, but haven't had recourse to them yet. It's probably about 8 degrees. There's a bit of a breeze, which always takes the edge off it, doesn't it? So far everything going okay. So of course this one's going to block everything. I certainly never expected to see so many stickers about. I think if you visit perhaps during the middle of the day, it'll be slightly less in evidence. I know what they've done. They've sort of congregated the vehicles in sort of particular garages, so tried to get all the old ones together and ditto the new ones, so the garages, they've got the charging points. Simple as really, isn't it? Got a line across to the Irish Sea with yellow. First you come to Warrington after leaving Manchester. You can do that by bus, and then from Warrington you can carry on to Liverpool, where they've got the Liverpool Metro being introduced, and our lovely chair at the secretary, at the North West Vehicle Restoration Trust is now in charge of organising the changes for the Merseyside area into their franchise. And again, they're mainly yellow. There's still a few odd ones out to the system. Down in London, the buses have been franchised for many years, and over in Northern Ireland, still state run. But everywhere things are changing, of course. And without change, all things will remain the same. Well, the voices and the colour out there has changed somewhat over the years. I wonder if they used to have people called tramps back in the day. I don't know if you equate them to today's rough sleepers. They used to literally tramp around the country, mainly people, servicemen returning from the First World War, is where it all sort of kicked off. And the phone zombie heading our way. How do they sort of make their way along the road when they don't look? They've got little sort of radar systems, I think. We'll have to change our vantage point now, won't we? We've done this spot to death, but I do like it, and it's nice for near sides. Nears and rears, always beloved of modelers, and since my early days I've sort of been a modeler. Recently rejoined the Model Bus Federation. Lovely set of people there, and very, very friendly, nice welcome to anybody who turns up. And I don't think you really actually need to be a modeler, you might just be a collector, so you'll always get a welcome there. Another spot I like, just around the corner, another place for near sides. You're really on the ball, you can actually get them in both directions. And another one. Let's wait for the lady dry. Another wave. Not so busy here, people can find a second to give you a wave. But not a bad day for late January. Light cloud will suit us. Roll there, aren't we? Manchester was the home to Mandy's grandfather's businesses, and they went back to days in Salford when they were dyers and publicans. I think they'd come over from Yorkshire on her grandmother's side. They were all Irish, all the ladies were Irish, and the men were from Lancashire. In latter years, the family were into cotton warehousing. This is where there was bales and bales of cotton being shipped around the world. Known back in the days of the later years of the Industrial Revolution as cottonopolis. People will wonder what on earth that meant now, wouldn't they, really? That's what it was known as. Not officially, of course, but if you said you were off doing some business up in the old Cottonopolis, they'd know where you were heading. Like down in London when we used to say we were going up to the smoke. Everybody knew what the smoke was. The smoke was London. Why was it called that? Because there was a constant sort of cloud over it. You sort of come up on the train from the coast where I was brought up, and as you got sort of up towards Croydon, the sky would be leaden and grey. It could have been a bright summer's day down on the seaside. But life moves on. Manchester also had a lot of connections with Ireland, very large Irish community, and Mandy's grandparents quite instrumental in assisting to establish the Republic of Ireland, the Free State as it became initially. And on our lounge wall hangs the invitation to Mandy's grandparents to the first session of the Doyle. Well, in a British story it's the first, but actually if you're brought up in Ireland and were taught at school there, it'll actually be the third Doyle. And the invitation card, nicely framed, and Michael Collins, MC, initialed the invitation to Mandy's grandmother. She was really the supporter behind it, and it's a marvellous thing to have there, the autograph of Michael Collins on your wall. Quite a sought after thing for Ireland. But as I'm half Irish, and they won't give me a passport though, because, not that my father wasn't Irish, it's just that his name wasn't on the birth certificate. It was on all the adoption papers, everything about me. But they won't budge, because since that wretched Brexit exercise, curses be upon them, lots and lots of people were looking to try and get hold of an EU passport. To actually rectify the situation could cost up to £50,000 and have to go to a high court. And even when you've done all that and get a bit of paper with your father's name on a copy of your birth certificate, it has no legal validity at all. It becomes, as far as the UK is concerned, a historic document. So yeah, I've been into it all. Everybody's, even your father's Irish, is no problem. So there is a process, but it's so expensive and time consuming. I probably haven't got enough time to do it. Got a phone zombie coming along. Hope he enjoys his phone. Well, it's nice to get a nice thumbs up and wave. Probably the driver actually knows us from my work over the years in museums, etc. We've supported the North West Vehicle Restoration Trust quite a few years now, and before that we supported the Potteries Omnibus Preservation Society in their annual rally, Pops Rally, to the Wedgwood Centre at Barleston. Unfortunately, we lost that site. It's all built on now. Its successor, it was tried a couple of times at the football stadium, really wasn't the same type of thing. It's all didn't really want the buses there, I don't know. We actually had it with a posh hotel once, but all they wanted was a few of the sort of pre-war ones parked up near the entrance, sort of like somebody wanting Rolls Royce. Well, this is all pulled up outside. What's happening there? It's with a soup kitchen or something. I wonder if Piccadilly was a seedy in those far off days of horse buses. Very thankful we got actual photographs that were taken that far back in time. The main hospital for the city was located off of the square, and at one stage, it was after the war, there was a huge car park as the proliferation of private motoring got back into higher gear. The factories started turning out more, though most of what you could see was still pre-war and black. Yes, yes, Henry Ford's thing still went, and it would have any colour you want as long as it's black. And looking at the pictures, most of them were still that colour in 1946-47. Not that I can remember that far back, personally. And we've all know. No. Sorry, what was that? No. It's not a state secret, you know. Well, certainly a bit more edge around here, particularly with the bus drivers. The trouble is the pavements and the road are sort of incompatible. It's not enough room for buses and people with a camera. But you know, you're well and truly on the pavement. Really, the buses are either too big, pavements too small, or people need to get used to driving their buses with a little bit more skill. That's me kicking on a tripod. Suddenly a little jog there. Well, it's about 10 past 10 in the morning on this Thursday. Yes, what's Thursday? It's pub night, of course. So I visited down the Crown. Last week was busy. They had a sort of an early Burns night with a guy with bagpipes. It was very authentic, because we saw him walking through from the loo when he'd take his underpants off. I don't know whether he gave me a little sort of flash. I don't know. What's worn under the kilt? Nothing, it's all in good working order. Gosh, Terry Wogan could say that, couldn't he, really? The old ones were the best. Back in the day. And they say if you'd been there in the 1960s, you wouldn't remember it, which actually is sort of true to a degree, isn't it, really? But I had my teenage years through the 60s. When I first hit the roads, things were very much different. There was only one speed limit at the time, that was 30 miles an hour. When the speed limit sign, end sign, came up, that meant literally that was it. It wasn't a speed limit. So however small or windy the road, you could go down it. Now that one cut right over the pavement as well. That's why the pavement has eventually become the same height as the road. It's been sort of flattened. Well, we're at the end of another adventure, and it's been a great pleasure having you with us in Manchester at the end of January 2026. It's been a rough start to the year in more ways than one. Everything that sort of could go wrong seemed to have happened at home, and the weather has been pretty awful, very, very wet, windy, and that doesn't really suit taking a chance on going too far to film. Anyway, we began with on today, and it all worked out great, didn't it? And remember, as we always say, stay well, stay safe, be good, and if you can, be kind to others. Meanwhile, on behalf of Mandy, who's at home, and I get back and we've got to go shopping then for something to eat. God bless, and we'll all be together again in the very near future, we hope. Bye bye everybody, goodbye.